Got it from RC4WD. It's built really good. It's heavy built. It's aluminum with ceramic coated paint job on it. Has aluminum rims and really good tires and bearings. I'll get into that in a second here. Let you guys take a look at how good a quality this thing is. It's really worth it. If you can afford one of these from there and you can get them, you can't, you're going to have to go on eBay and hunt there, and they're going to charge quite a bit more than RC4WD. But these rims look realistic. These center caps come out. You have to unthread them. They're all aluminum, so the bearings and all that, you can see the aluminum in there. It's really nice. It's all machine done. Has working suspension on there. All these trailers, if you get any of these trailers, or any trailer, you need to go over and make sure all the bolts are tight and use lock nut. A lot of these bolts are loose, that's why all this all wobbles around. I got to take apart the trailer and tighten a lot of screws. It's a really nice trailer. If you can afford one of these, definitely pick one up if you have a collection of trucks and trailers. Well, let's get to the underside of this thing. Has two spots for the fifth wheel pin, the king pin. Has pads on here. They actually move a little bit. I might take them off and make them so they can move a little bit more. Spring operated. So these things, you have to push the buttons in and they shoot down, and then they pull themselves up. And you just pull out, it latches, shoots the pin back out. I found with one of my trailers, if I can zoom in, these springs here will go down inside with the threads of the bolt and they'll jam up. So you might want to put a stainless steel little washer on here or something behind the spring, so that way there can't get pulled into the aluminum frame here. You know, the aluminum shrouding here. If you gotta be careful when you pull these out, there's springs in here. So if you yank it real hard and go past this point, because this thing jams because that spring goes down there, you can stretch the springs in here. So that there's a stop point, if you pull and these pins shoot out. You can push the pin and pull the rest of the jack out, but you're just stretching the spring really bad in there. Really nice frames, and this is all aluminum. This is about 1/4 inch thick. I don't know if I got a little tape measure out here. See if I can get the tape measure in here. Let's see here. Yeah, about 1/4 inch thick frames. So we'll go over there. Yeah, it's 1/4 inch. That's definitely 1/4 inch. Sorry about the camera there. Let's see here. It's not focusing. It's focused on something else. There we go. Yeah, it's about 1/4 inch. They're supposed that these trailers are built to hold 200 pounds, but the suspension, these little tiny springs can't hold it. You just bottom the axle out and you rest it on the axle. And the bearings, I wouldn't recommend doing it. Use them as scale stuff. It comes with all this wiring, so you can wire it to your truck. It's all just servo wiring. Runs right down the middle here, which I'm going to later on put lights, and that's where I'm going to run the lights down the middle. Has working springs, it has shackles, see them moving here back and forth between the loads from front axle to rear. I'm going to push this little thing. See these move back and forth in there. So this one here is twisted, so if I push on the back, it'll shift the weight to the other thing, just like if you're going just like real trailers. I notice all these screws are just hand tightened in there. You just thread these things out. So before I start really running these around, I gotta back these out and put a little bit of Loctite on here. I found the best Loctite is this Tamiya. Let's see if I can find a little box. This Tamiya thread lock. It seems to not seize the bolts or anything. It's just a lightweight thread lock. So if you have to take something apart, you just crank a little bit and it just break free. So I'm gonna order more of this stuff up because I'm really impressed with it. See if I can get the part number. item number. There's your item number. If you guys are going to look this up on Tamiya, on like Tower Hobby or something like that, I seen it there. These are adjustable. So once I get ready to start Loctiting all this stuff in, I gotta do alignment on this trailer. I'm gonna just run from somewhere up here that's perfectly aligned with everything else and just run measuring back to the first axle and line these and Loctite them in, and then Loctite these in after I get them set where I want. Because these they're just thread back and forth. There's nothing holding them. So the vibration works these axles all out of alignment. It looks like brake drums back there, but it's part of the aluminum shrouding. But you can consider that it's kind of like your brake drums. Really good tires. I mean, the tires are really they're flexible, but they're really stiff to carry the weight. They're pretty good tires. This thing here, let's see if I can get some more light in here on this thing. Let's see here if I can get the light in here. I'm gonna have to flip the trailer over here on this back. Oh, this thing's so heavy. There we go. There, it's going over. There, that's a lot better. You guys can really look at what's going on here. There's the servo. That's where that mounts down in there. Once I flip it over, there's a little slack play in here, and I'll show you why. There's a little cut groove in this thing here. Once I flip it back, you guys can see that little groove in there. I'll see if you can see it. It moves, it slides in there before it moves the servo. That's when you're loading your trailers, your weight goes up and down on your springs, and it doesn't make your servo scream or break some little gears in there. So they really thought this thing through when they're building it. I'm just impressed with it. I just gotta put some lights in here somewhere along here. I'm gonna put some running lights on it. Let's see if I can get this thing back over. So these are really thick. They're part of the frame. There's structure underneath them, so you can drive up and over them. They're pretty strong. I just use this as model stuff, so I don't know the limits of some of the metal. I would not be standing on it or something like that. They say they can hold 200 pounds, which is, like I said, you bottom the suspension out. Once you bottom the suspension out, you're resting on your axles. And my thing, I would worry about blowing out the bearings or tearing apart your aluminum in here. So I would recommend not putting 200 pounds on them like they say you can, because you're just asking to break your trailer. Okay, let me hook up something here and I can run the lift gate. I'm going to put a heavier servo in here. This is a stock one. I don't care for it too much. I want to put a gear-to-gear one in here, something pretty strong. The springs actually work to assist it up. And see, you got that play I was talking about. So when you're loading, the back of the suspension goes down. You don't burn the seat of servo, isn't making any noise. So you can lift it up and down. It works pretty good. I got this so it works off the semi itself. To this point, it's 18 inches. To the gates, I think it was 32 and a half. You got a little bit of play on that. So from the front here all the way to the gates is 32 without the gates being tilted, obviously. 32 and a half, a little bit more. So 32 and a half. It's about 8 1/4 inches wide. And it sits off the ground 2.5, a little bit more than 2.5 inches. Yeah, about 2.5 will be easily said. And this back here is 3 3/8 on up. It's pretty heavy. I found out with my Tamiya truck, I got aftermarket suspension. When I put in it, I found out it weighs so much it bottoms my suspension out in the truck.